Yeah, before you,
7 o'clock, our meeting order, stand for the pledge, please. Okay, get the motion to accept the minutes of April 18th.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the meeting held on April the 18th.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The motion to accept the financial report and payment of the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Have some budget amendments, Steve?
Yes, I do. I have 4 budget amendments. The first one is budget amendment number 2012-013. It's a transfer within the sewer fund of $2,020 from their minor equipment into their equipment account for the purchase of a laptop computer.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept budget amendment 2012-013.
Move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Second is budget amendment number 2012-014. The transfer is to recognize $10,322 from the anticipated fund balance for the purchase of the air conditioning unit for 219 North Street in the amount of $4,800 and the purchase of a propane heater for the fabrication shop in the amount of $5,522. These were repairs that were not originally budgeted, were not anticipated, but were needed during the year.
Okay. Have a motion to accept budget amendment 2012-14.
I make a motion that we accept the budget number 2012-014.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Budget amendment number 2012-015 is to recognize $12,547 from the anticipated fund balance for municipal buildings repairs. That was specifically for the repair of the municipal building roof that had the leaks repaired.
Have a motion to accept budget amendment 2012-015.
That's a move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Last one is budget amendment number 2012-016 is to recognize $9,761 in community development block grant funds for the finishing renovation costs of the Thompson Estates Water Tower for the Plata Town CO. That was the balance of that grant over the last fiscal year.
Do I have a motion to accept budget amendment 2012-016.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. Southfields LLC. Bruce? Oh,
Good evening,
There you go.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
go on.
My name is David Parrish, and I'm here on behalf of Southside LLC. With me is Mr. Bruce Schneider, one of the principals of Southside LLC. With us also tonight is Mr. John, yes, there is Mr. John Fellows of Duffield Associates. It was Duffield, I had it right. Duffield Associates, who is the engineer for the project. And as you know, we're here to seek conditional approval of a planned unit development for property owned on the south side of Elkton, south of Route 40. And basically, we have presented to you at a workshop session a PowerPoint presentation detailing the outlines of this project. We'd be happy to present that again if the Mayor and Commissioner so desire, but you've seen what we have had to show in the way of the PowerPoint presentation, giving you an idea of the concept of the overall development. We're here tonight seeking your conditional approval of it. My understanding is that Ms. Minner will present to you the findings of the Planning Commission. Again, those findings you're already aware of. There are a number of issues that are raised by the findings of the Planning Commission, and those deal with matters that are addressed typically at the, what we call the preliminary plat stage of any subdivision. So we're here tonight asking you to grant conditional approval to this project, conditioned on compliance with the remaining provisions of the plan development provisions of your zoning ordinance. And we ask that you find that the proposal has merit in the sense that it provides for a number of housing types and the placement throughout this planned unit development, and that in addition there are benefits accruing to the town from the proposed development, such as the 13 acres down by the waterfront, the provision of acreage that can be used by the town for various and sundry public facilities such as schools, libraries, police departments, whatever the case may be. We think there are benefits to the town accruing from the inclusion of these things in the project, in addition to the fact that, again, it would provide a number of housing units to the town, which produces, of course, users of water and sewer systems and tax returns in terms of the developed properties. With that, I would be open to any questions that you may have, either from Mr. Snyder, myself, or Mr. Fellows, with regard to any specifics of the project.
Anybody have any questions?
I would like to hear from Gene.
Yes, we're going to do next, yeah.
And, before we have any questions.
The Planning Commission at the regularly scheduled meeting of January 9th, 2012, recommended the Mayor and Commissioners deny Southside's LLC's request for a planned unit development, overlay zone general development plan concept level, based on the following findings. 1, the overall number of dwelling units in this proposed PUD is too great. 2, this area has significant wetlands and a large critical area, and the number of dwelling units proposed by this planned unit development is too great for their proximity and impact to these sensitive areas. 3, the area on the west side of Maryland 213 does not adequately address concerns regarding parking. 4, the amount of active open space being proposed by this planned unit development is inadequate. 5, a traffic impact study needs to be done prior to approving an overlay zone for a planned unit development of this size. 6, concerns regarding adequate public facilities that will not be addressed even after approval of the overlay zone based on the number of dwelling units and the increase in population.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, if I may respond to those findings, once again, I point out, as I've pointed out to you on several occasions previously, that what we are talking about here is a conditional approval. Hard engineering has not been done for this project. So with reference specifically to the significant wetlands and large critical areas, those things are addressed at a preliminary site plan approach, as with the traffic impact study. Those things have to be developed before we can say whether it will support the houses where we presently contemplate those houses to be. It's a sharpening of the pencil kind of approach. So that what the Mayor and Commissioners do tonight is simply say, we think the proposal has merit. Ms. Minner has indicated that the Planning Commission recommended disapproval of this. That's not what the ordinance calls for the Planning Commission to do. It calls for them to make findings, and I accept those as having been their findings. But those are not etched in concrete, nor is there any real hard engineering for them to base those particular concerns on. So what we're asking to do is to move to the next step, which is that harder engineering, which is that delineation of wetlands with precision, that delineation of, okay, if there are wetlands that might be impacted here, here's where the houses can go. Those are the factors that go into the final plan. And once again, what happens is a preliminary site plan is done. We come back to the planning, we go to the Planning Commission with that preliminary site plan. And then at that point, they send it on back to you to say, here's what the applicant is proposing, here's what our recommendations are at this point. And at that point, you make a final decision as to whether you ought to go or not. So we're asking you for that opportunity. We've been working at the opportunity for a number of years now, and we'd like to move to that next step.
Okay. Let me do the public first. Anyone in the audience that'd like to speak for, ma'am? All right, you can come up and state your name and address.
My name is Ann Connor. I live at 45 Enfield Road in Elton, and I'm speaking to oppose this development, this PUD. I have a number of reasons for that. My property backs up to this, as does my entire single-family home neighborhood. The number of houses that are proposed in this PUD will cause further overcrowding to the elementary schools and high schools that are fed by this area. They're currently at capacity or over capacity, and there's no way that this current schools could handle this increase in students. It's not fair or productive for the current and future students to add these number of kids to these schools. The proposed area that they're talking about adding is about roughly 15 acres, I guess, for putting a school or fire hall or police station. That's not nearly enough to cover the kind of necessary amenities that this many houses, this many units, and this many people is going to require of the town. I understand that the developer doesn't have to do anything to support this need. It's legal, may not be ethical or morally correct, but it is legal. The current level of police protection and fire company services can't handle this type of PUD. You're talking mostly apartments and townhouses, and in addition to duplexes and some single-family homes. They're also not going to generate the type of taxes. People are paying taxes to help fund this infrastructure expansion. The roads can't carry this increase in traffic. Frenchtown Road and Maloney Road, which will be very hard hit, are rural roads with no shoulders, narrow travel lanes. As it stands right now, you can't pull out of Frenchtown Road going south at most times of the day. It's just not safe to do. Are developers going to be made to pay for these upgrades needed to the current roads? Is there going to be traffic studies, or is there going to be any way to determine, 2,500 units and the 2 or 3 people per unit that this is going to add on to this community? The plans also show connecting Bridgewell Parkway to this development. The community around Bridgewell Parkway receives numerous police calls, and they have drug issues. They have a lot of issues that's going to carry into this great big new community. I feel that this is a concern that needs to be addressed, because you don't want to continue to propagate issues like that from one neighborhood to the other. This mix of homes leaning towards apartments and townhouses will lower existing property values for the current residential properties. Apartments and townhouses also lean towards being rentals, even if the townhouses start out as owner-occupied dwellings. Look at Winding Brook townhouses. These townhouses are now mostly rentals, but they're also drug infested. Drive through Elk Landing townhouses near Hollingsworth Manor, they're mostly rentals too. There's one house down here in the middle of the road. It's burned out, barely boarded up. If you look at the tax plans, there's 25 to 30 houses, townhouses on the street. The average is 5 owner-occupied houses. There's streets down there that look like Chester, Pennsylvania. It's just unreal. Plus, you've got duplexes right next door in Hollingsworth Manor. That's what's planned behind my property. I'm not really looking forward to that type of community. Townhouse on Woodmanswood Road, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. White Hill Road, they started as very nice townhouses. Owner-occupied, deed restricted, they have homeowners association to keep things in check. That no longer exists. That community is going downhill. There's no homeowners association, and there's more and more rentals. There's nothing except calls to the town about parking and trash pickup and other issues. This is the kind of thing that the town is looking at having to deal with. The Town of Elkton Comprehensive Plan states that there are more rental properties in Elkton than owner-occupied units. This PUD will continue to tilt that balance towards renters. The comprehensive plan also states that the area needs more high-value houses to provide a range of house options to protect the fiscal health of the area. There needs to be more single-family homes that are of high value. And this goes along with some of the R1 zoning of some of the acreage in this unit. I'm truly worried. I think that this large number of housing units is bad for the town of Elkton. It's bad for Cecil County Public Schools and their students, bad for existing roads, bad for residential property owners, bad for the environment, and bad for the safety of all. These parcels should be kept something reasonable and sustainable for the town of Elkton. These developers don't live here, we do. They don't have to deal with it or live with the situation that they would create with 2,500 new units. They're going to take the money and they're going to leave, and we're stuck. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Could we have a copy of your letter? Is that available to us for our minutes?
It's,
Or you
I
can
kind of
email it?
deviated it from you. I can email you.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Michael Jones. I live in Northgate. I have 2 points of opposition to this plan development. The first is it creates a large amount of impervious surfaces, such as roads, parking lots, sidewalks, buildings, and this has a far-reaching impact on the environment. Runoff water from these impervious surfaces alter food webs, nutrient levels increase, and potentially toxic chemicals can flow into creeks and streams. This activity can and has decreased fish and other aquatic life in our local waterways. My second point is historically affordable or low-income housing developments start out as nice neighborhoods, but within a span of, say, 10 years, these neighborhoods degrade to atrocious Section 8 slums. This dramatically and negatively affects surrounding neighborhoods with the infiltration of criminal activity and the downward spiral of property values. This is not responsible growth. It's not a good growth plan for the Elkton area. And it needs to be restructured with desirable housing, with infrastructure to support the needs of not only the new community, but the existing surrounding communities as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
My name is John Conway. I'm also a resident on Sarah Drive at Northgate. I've written most of you via email about my concerns about the Southfields development. I'd just like to reiterate a couple points at this point in time.
Your address is?
66 Sarah Drive.
66.
Yes. During the last meeting here, the developer provided a presentation on the housing structure and where they were located. At the time, we had brought up the point that he was trying to keep in concert with the houses that were in the area. Yet in back of Northgate where we live, they were going for high-density duplexes. We asked if that could be readdressed. I had not seen anything that tells me it was or wasn't addressed. Suffice it to say that all the homes in that area and along Maloney Road are single-family homes, half-acre and larger lots. And what we were seeing were high-density duplexes on extremely small lots. It wasn't keeping in concert with the area. Secondly, and probably already mentioned tonight, we have increased strain on the infrastructure. Police, volunteer, fire department, these things would need to be increased. As was mentioned, my concern is that this is not necessarily a PUD designation per se. The PUD designation is used as a marketing tool to attract national level builders. Once the development is there, once you say, okay, if you do so, the horse is out of the barn, it won't be brought back. And we, the taxpayers, will be left at the end of the day to take care of the infrastructure impacts that are not covered by residential housing. Previously, when we first met on this in 2008, there were concerns about schools being at or over capacity. That is still a concern. Within the town's comprehensive plan, Southfield is mentioned numerous times. There's also concerns about water conditions and water shortages at full build-out. These are concerns for those of us that run wells in the area. They're legitimate concerns. Many of us have had to drill new wells in the past few years, and the impact of the water table concerns us. I think the biggest thing that, as a lifelong resident of Elton, that concerns me about this is that you're talking about increasing the town's population by 50%. It's the biggest thing that's ever going to happen here. And at the end of the day, this is going to be your legacy. And you need to be able to say you made the right decision. I haven't seen anything on traffic studies, environmental impacts, what we're going to do about our overcrowded schools. To me, these are questions that need to be answered up front. You need to have this information as decision makers before you say yay or nay. Because once it's done, it's done. I haven't heard the information yet that allows you to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Earl. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, if I may respond just briefly to what has been stated. Once again, what we're talking about here, as Mr. Conley just last alluded to, you don't have the nuts and bolts, basic information to make a decision about whether there ought to be this type of unit here or that type of unit there, for that matter, how many units there are, what your police protection is going to be, where the funds are coming from for those things. Those are a part of the next part of this process. Tonight is simply a matter of saying, do you think there is merit in saying, in this area that now encompasses an area that would permit, by the present zoning, by the single families here, by the apartments here, by the duplexes here, presently permits over 2,700 units. We have presented a plan that calls for fewer than 2,500 units. And we're prepared to go ahead to the next step, to do the hard engineering, to say, will it support that many? Can they be here? Will it impact critical areas? Will it affect wetlands? That's what we need to get to. And that's when, as a part of the process, Mr. Dennis, Mr. Conley, Ms. Connor, have the opportunity to be a part of that process. It goes to the Planning Commission. You are not approving that concept that you've seen. You're not approving that subdivisional layout. You're not doing that tonight. You're simply saying, we think the plan has merit. Hey, it's fewer than are permitted out there under existing zoning. Exactly where those are, single family, duplexes, townhouses, apartments, that is a part of the Planning Commission process before it comes back to you for that final approval. So we're asking for your commission approval to move to that next step, in which these folks have the right to participate in that process. And we work out those things. One of which, for example, in the PUD provisions, there will be a cost. We are going to do a cost-benefit analysis for you. But this is not the time that that's done. That's not what the process calls for. At the time that this comes back to you, all that will have been worked through at the Planning Commission level with the numbers, with the data to say, this is why we want to do what we want to do. We think it's a good idea. What about you? And that's where the Planning Commission, again, has reviewed it, looked at those factors, and made a decision for their recommendations to you. Thank you.
I just want to say, thank everybody for coming tonight and discussing this in detail. When you came before us with the presentation and everything, I thought it was a well put together presentation. I don't live out there in the south side where everybody has issues, but based on the the findings that were addressed at the last meeting. How many of those were addressed and what was addressed, Mr. Attorney, from the last presentation?
Well, I've tried to address those that were listed in the findings. The overall number of dwelling units is too large. Once again, there are over 2,700 permitted under present zoning. We're talking about fewer than 2,500.
But that was adjusted once before from
Oh, yeah.
the amount that was started, because I remember the planning, I asked you to adjust and you did adjust it.
And that was adjusted. The next comment was the area has significant wetlands and the large critical area. And there is no question that there are a number of wetlands. Any project has to deal with wetlands. But it speaks of impact to critical area. The initial plans had called for townhomes down in the critical area. We've taken them out of there. They're permitted, but we've taken them out of there so that the impact as far as critical area is far less. Proposed plan for the west side of 215 doesn't adequately address concerns regarding parking. Here again, parking is very much a part of the nuts and bolts of saying, okay, we have 200 square feet that's needed for each parking space. How many units are we going to be supporting? How many of those are we going to need? That's, again, a part of preliminary planning kind of considerations. The amount of active open space proposed is inadequate. We've shown you initial presentation of this plan, it did not have the active open space required by the ordinance. But what you saw at the workshop session, at that last presentation, is we increased that. There is additional active open space, fully compliant with the town of Elkton's requirements. The traffic impact study, once again, that is done in every subdivision as a part of the preliminary plat process. And that will be done. So that the questions regarding the improvement of roads or provision of roads, that has to be addressed at that level. The lack of adequate public facilities, that again, initially this plan didn't contemplate 13 acres being donated to the town of Elkton down at the waterfront for whatever the town of Elkton wants to use it for. We do have an agreement with the town that we would provide access for you to possibly obtain water from the Elk River by way of easement. But now what we're talking about with the latest proposal that you have seen is an actual 13-acre dedication to the town, for the town to do with as a park or active recreational space or whatever the town may want to do at the town's decision. The adequate public facilities also, to address again a comment by Ms. Connor, the 15 acres that we're talking about as far as provision for possible public schools or library facilities or whatever the town may determine, that's based on consultation with the Board of Education. And again, if the town of Elkton's comprehensive plan, if you look at it, says a new elementary school is going to be needed for the town of Elkton by at least 2030. And that acreage involved was arrived at by talking with the board facilities manager, not the entire Board of Education, but we're talking to the board's facilities manager in terms of what is required for an elementary school, because that's what the comprehensive plan contemplates. The point of the whole thing is that this plan, at the concept stage, has been drawn with a view toward those things that the town of Elkton's comprehensive plan points at as needed in the future. One thing again that everyone should understand is there are not going to be 2,500 or 2,400 or 2,300 homes out there next year. This project, based on economic conditions that have deteriorated since this first began, this is a 25, 30, 35-year build-out. I mean, it would be wonderful if it were built out in 25 years. But the fact of the matter is, that's not going to happen.
Last comment I want to make. I do know that the school board has been involved with this plan because when it first came on board, myself and Jean Mentor, approach or contact the school because I thought it was important that the school system was aware that there's a possibility there's another school that would come aboard. So I do know that from the gentleman speaking about the school system not being involved, that was from day one addressed because I remember being on the board and addressing it. But as far as the study for the road, I can't see a study being done until the plan has been put in place so that you'll know which streets are coming out. And I hear that several times from the last presentation, but mainly from the actions that were being addressed from the last meeting. That's my concern, and that's what I asked you for that.
Well, as I say, we tried to work with the planning commission and will continue to work with the planning commission, obviously. We tried to get input from the Board of Ed in terms of their needs and again, what state requirements may be and that sort of thing. Lady referred to the connection of Bridgewell Parkway. That's not our decision. I mean, we're willing to do what the planning commission wants as far as either connecting to Bridgewell Parkway or not connecting to Bridgewell Parkway. But that's, again, at a preliminary plat stage. We're not there yet. Again, in fact, we have the ability to connect to Bridgewell, but if the town does not want it, then we don't need to. I mean, that's the way the project has been laid out conceptually. Again, not with our engineering yet, because
The last statement, and I'll pass this along, but with the well drilling and everything, I mean, with the planning board, it's been moved all the way up to this point where the wells were being tested and we were getting information back and forth from that. And then all of a sudden, we come back with the issues with the wells. They're like, again, you guys live out there, I don't. But listening to the planning board, I was assured that things were moving forward. And that's my take on that. That's my take from what was given to me.
as I say, we're asking for conditional approval. It does not lock the town into anything. We just want to move to the next step of planning, which again, that step is where some of these questions that concerned citizens have raised are answered. I mean, with hard data. That's what we're looking to do. Move on.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Can I get a motion to accept the conditional approval of the concept plan?
I like for it to continue to move on because we have put a lot of faith in our planning board to get us to this point. And I would like to say that I wouldn't want to stop something this far if we're within legal guidelines for them to do that. I don't feel as though we have the right to stop them because questions have been raised, but if there's another step that's supposed to be in order to shut things down, then people invest their money just as well as people that live in the neighborhood. But one thing, if this is a perfect world, then everyone would have enough money to build great big houses. And we wouldn't have to worry about the economy falling or folding. We got people next door to us right now moving out because they can't afford it because they're losing jobs. So people are downsizing, going to smaller houses. And when you look at that, where's the person in the middle? Where do they go? That's the question I ask. Where do they go if we don't have these great big houses or they can't afford it? The market's not, the houses are not selling in the market. Right where I live at there, they had to come down almost $40,000, $50,000 just to get the house to try to move. And then a renter came in. I don't like renters to come in, but that's not my decision. If they can't afford it, and the person has to rent. So that's the way I feel about this. I mean, we're at this point, and if it comes to a matter where we find out that from a road study, you can't do this, you can't do that, and shuts down, then legally, I think we have the right to say, we don't want that.
Well, do I have a motion to accept on conditional approval?
So for the
So concept, right, just for the concept. So I'll just get a motion for that.
I so move that we accept this, and I guess I support what Earl has said thus far, and, you know, I certainly understand the information that has been brought thus far from the people that live around it. It's a concept plan, it's a conditional plan, it's going to take a long time for this to come to fruition. I do have concerns about the roads, particularly about the school system, since I've been involved in it most of my life. And I know there needs to be a lot of changes, but I think at this point, if you're heading that direction, basically, it's not etched in stone yet, so I believe there's time to make corrections to those things that have been presented.
Do I have a second?
We need some clarification. We understood that Mr. Piner made the motion.
Oh, you did make the motion? I'm sorry.
Yes, he made the motion.
Okay, I was first and second, okay, I thought you were just making a statement, okay. All righty, all those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you very much. Mayor, Commissioners, I hope we're back to you with a product come down the end of the line that everybody is gonna be happy with.
I apologize for interrupting. Commissioner Givens, the second.
I guess I was the second, I wasn't sure when they're all.
I didn't want to sure either. Okay. Okay, Severn Trent, Ken? I don't.
I'm going to try and make this brief. Can you hear me? Hear me? I'm going to like to report on the month of March on the water and wastewater treatment facilities for the town of Elkton. March was another great month for treatment. The numbers were extremely good again. Just briefly, the highlighted numbers, I'm going to just go over with you real quick, is that total nitrogen was 1.4 milligrams per liter average going out in the discharge out of the Big Elk Creek. And your total phosphorus was 0.05, so it was another great month. Just two items I just really wanted to bring to your attention was, I had some pictures I gave you. Those pictures show the top of the silo, the storage silo at the wastewater treatment plant that we recently had to make repairs. What you see in those pictures are the airlift line that airlifts the biosolids up into the silo. And I just wanted you to see the effects of the material of the it's so abrasive that it's wearing out the pipe, and that pipe is stainless steel pipe that transverses up the side of the silo. So I just wanted to let you see that we probably patched that we probably put about 5 patches on that line so far since we've been online. So these repairs went very well. So. Just to give you an idea of the abrasiveness, the nature of the material, what we're dealing with. I would say eventually that we'll probably have to replace the entire pipe going up, at least the parts where it curves. The other thing I wanted to just tell you about was several weeks ago, the mayor contacted me about pressure problems at the Singerly Firehouse. And we went up there and we did pressure testing there at the site and found that when the water treatment facility was up and running, we had 70 psi, but when the water treatment plant was off, the pressure dropped to 40 psi. And this was right outside of the firehouse at the hydrant. And then when the water went through their utility room, the pressure dropped even further to 20 psi. So at the truck bays where the tanker trucks are, they had like 20 psi on their water supply. So they were basically unable to fill the tanker trucks. So I was very concerned. I know the mayor was very concerned about this. So, we talked about putting the firehouse on the Walnut Hill Tower, which would increase their pressure supply. So last Friday, DPW, town Elton DPW, and myself and a couple other members of my staff, we went up and we had pressure gauges set, and we were looking to change the division valves to move the fire company into a higher zone. And when we went to do that, we got on a valve on Bridge Street down towards the Cecil Wig, but not quite, almost to the Cecil Wig. And we got on this valve, and we found that this valve was a backwards valve. And what I mean by backwards valve, that when we got on it, it appeared to be open. It was in an open position. So when we went to close it, because that's what we wanted to do, was create a division valve, it actually opened it up. And we opened this valve up. It was an 8-inch line. So when we opened this valve, my guys that were on the fire hydrant with our pressure gauges down on 279 down towards North Street, the pressure went from 40 psi to 70 psi. So this was very, very big. So we went back to the water plant, and we had some old water maps of the town. And our water map showed an 8-inch water main and a 6-inch water main going up Bridge Street. And the new water maps that we were using only showed a 6-inch water main going up Bridge Street. So what we found is you have an 8-inch water main going up Bridge Street that was shut off, basically. And we also found the same thing on North Street. We found right off of 279 at North Street, we found another backwards valve. And so we opened the 8-inch water main on North Street and the 8-inch water main on Bridge Street. So now you have two 8-inch water mains plus a 6-inch main supplying water to the library, to the firehouse, to all 279, except for the high school. The high school gets their water from Walnut Hill Tower.
How long do you think it's been like that?
Long time.
So, number of years?
8, 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no way of us ever knowing that unless we check them out. I mean,
I think it would be wise for the town, to develop a program that would do a number of things. It would to check the valving, to exercise the valves, and that's not too difficult to do. And but I recommend going out at nighttime when there's no traffic. And I say you need 2 people to do this. And maybe they do 10 valves a night or something. But when they do this, they're going to be able to put a pressure gauge on a hydrant. And then they start opening valves, and they see if the pressure goes up or the pressure goes down. So they'll be able to determine whether or not they're backwards or not. And I really believe there are more backwards valves.
Excuse me, but I guess we'd have to start by finding the most accurate plan.
Well, you're right. And so what I talked to Dan about doing was we're going to gather up all the maps that we have, and we're going to make copies of them, and we're going to give them. And I would suggest the DPW do the same thing, and then someone then needs to look at the old maps and compare them with the new water maps that we're working off of, and make those changes that are needed. I agree. I think that's the first thing you need to do.
do we have I thought we had something done like that some time ago. We upgraded it.
We had a PCI and a very elaborate thing. I don't know why there's that difference in the left hand and right hand of the house. I don't know that. But we've had that, we paid quite a bit of money to have
I know.
do that.
You better
Well,
get their maps and compare them to what you find and see how far off they are. and then we better let them know what, you know, the situation here.
Right, and then we can,
Yeah.
come up with a set of maps that are very accurate, more accurate than what they are right now. That's the goal. But, you know, there's a lot of benefits. You know, you get the valves exercised, so then when you need to utilize them, they're easy to use. They shut off, they do what they're supposed to do. So, there's a lot of benefits to developing a program that would allow you that.
Okay, well, we need to really look into it, because that definitely made a point that all these years and all that water pressure and the water's off and nobody's thinking it's on, and God knows how many more we might have that's off that should be on.
Well, I will tell you this, when we were having problems filling Blue Ball Tower, and we realized that one of the companies over there was operating their fire pump, and the fire pump pumped 2,000 gallons a minute. It was a lot of water, and it was having a significant impact on the level of water in Blue Ball Tower. So when we went and had a meeting with their management there, they made some comments at the meeting that I thought was very significant. And one of the comments that they made was that when they moved their company there, originally they had adequate water pressure, I guess that's Blue Ball Road, coming up Blue Ball Road, and then something happened, and then the pressure was not adequate, and they had to put in a brand new water main up to feed them. Now, they made that statement, and of course I've not been around long enough, so I'm not aware of that. So maybe you are, but the point I'm trying to make is that if there was a water main there already, and then all of a sudden there wasn't adequate water pressure, and they had to put another water main in, it could have been very well that there could be a backwards valve on the existing main, and no one seemed to find it. So I think there could be more backwards valves out there. That's my point.
All right, well, we'll get working on that, and you need to check them out there, Louis. Okay, other questions of Ken? All right, thanks, Ken. Jeannie, that bicycle.
A proclamation for Bike Month. Proclamation reads, whereas for 55 years the National Nonprofit Bicycling Safety and Education Association and the League of American Bicyclists have declared the month of May as National Bike Month, and whereas Americans in record numbers are turning to the bicycle as a viable and environmentally sound form of transportation as well as an excellent form of recreation, and whereas millions of Americans can experience the joys of bicycling this May through educational programs, commuting events, trail work days, helmet protection, and charity rides, and whereas bicycle clubs, schools, local departments of parks and recreation, police departments, hospitals, corporations, and civic groups throughout the state will be promoting bicycling as a wholesome activity as well as an environmentally friendly alternative to automobiles during the month of May, and whereas the mayor and commissioners of the town of Elkton emphasize and encourage increasing use of non-motorized transportation in its many forms and functions. Now therefore, the mayor and commissioners of the town of Elkton do hereby proclaim May 2012 Bike Month in the town of Elkton and encourage residents of Elkton and the surrounding area to participate in bicycling activities.
Okay. I have a motion to accept the bicycle proclamation.
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, Louis.
The first item I have is ordinance 2012 for introduction. Ordinance 3 amends Title II Administration Personnel Chapter 2.28 Police Pension Plan to comply with the federal legislation entitled Heroes Earnings Assistance and Relief Tax Act 2008. The amendments include July 1, 2009 compensation shall include differential wage payments applicable to employees called to military service for more than 30 days. Military service is defined as the service in uniformed services within the meaning of the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act of 1994. The effective July 1, 2007, participants shall include any employee on leave of absence for military service. If a participant fails to again become an employee as a result of the employee's death while in military service on or after July 1, 2007, the participant shall be entitled to receive credit for such military service. Death benefits in the event of the death of a participant, including a participant who is on leave of absence for military service prior to his or her benefit commencement date, the participant's beneficiary shall be entitled to receive as a single lump sum an amount equal to the participant's employee contributions benefit plus his or her transferred benefit. The date of effect is July 1, 2012. I'm sorry. That's right.
All right, so I have a motion to accept the
Wait a
ordinance.
minute, I think there's an effective date.
Something else?
There are certain effective dates I have to read into the record. This particular legislation was reviewed by Wakefield, Taylor, and Preston. And is, I'm going to read this into a date of effect. The HART Act requires that the changes described under section 2.28070 participant in section 2.28120F credit for service during unpaid leave of absence for military service as amended to be effective as of July 1, 2007. And the changes described under section 2.28070 employee is amended to be effective July 1, 2009. The changes described under section 2.28070 compensation differential wage adjustment military service in section 2.28290A death prior to benefit commencement date shall be effective as of July 1, 2012. The reason those dates are retroactive, if employees were affected by them, it's effective that far back. I don't believe we have employees that are affected by that. But we've had employees who have left service of the police department to serve tours in the military.
Okay.
I would ask that the board accept it for introduction.
All right, do I have a motion to accept ordinance 3-2012 for introduction purposes only?
For introduction purposes only, I so move.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next item I have is the annexation resolution A2, 2012, introduction. Petitioner is Tenby Ridge Joint Venture LP. Date of petition accepted by the board April 15, 2009. The property includes on map 304 parcel 69, 879, 881, 892, and 1126, 122.143 acres, more or less, east side of Muddy Lane. Zoning requested is residential office for 10.5 acres, R3 multifamily residential for 111.5 acres. Gene Mentor will prepare the extension facility plan once the board accepts the resolution. Public hearing by the Elton Planning Commission is scheduled for Monday, June 11th at 7 p.m. A public hearing by the Mayor and Commissioners is scheduled for Wednesday, June 20th, 2012. The effective date of the resolution, if adopted on June 20th, will be August 5th, 2012.
Okay. Motion to accept annexation resolution A2-2012 for introduction purposes only.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mr. Tomey was here in case there were any questions. He represents Tenby Ridge, but I don't think I have any questions, right?
Mayor, if you need him.
That's all I have.
Okay, anybody have any old business or anything? Charlie?
No, no.
Okay. Thing I have is an appointment to the bicycle committee. This gentleman has agreed to serve. This will make our 7th member finally, and we will have a full board. So I ask get approval accepting Bill Moran for our bicycle committee. Any motion to approve him?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Nope. Hold up, Charlie.
There was some concerns about the skate park being open for the kids at the skate. And I do know Saturday was a real nice day, and the kids were climbing over. I know the police have been doing their job trying to keep them from climbing over and still using it. Been out to Barrett, Delaware several times, and they have a skate park out there, and everyone uses it. I was suggested from a 12-year-old that, Mr. Klein, how come we can't just open these gates and put a sign up there, skate at your own risk, you won't have to worry about anyone as far as being there on patrol and all that stuff. Before it was someone was breaking into the shed or something. Now we do have security on there, and I think it would be a good thing just to open the gate and put some sign out there, because the kids are going to do it whether we got the gates closed or not, and it's just causing more problems for that little area right there. Like I said, it's just a suggestion from a 12-year-old.
Well, we discussed that, did we not? Mary's gonna have that opened up, and that was gonna do that at one time? We're gonna try it.
I don't know what the schedule is, I'll have to ask Mary.
Well, you know, check it out. I mean, yeah, they got that new one up there in Barry now. It's really nice. So, Charlie?
Yeah, Dan Hanley sent us all an email and communication, and he said he had concerns, didn't know really how to address the fact that the vines and other tall grass was being left for the truck to pick up, and it's been jamming the truck.
Hmm.
Did y'all read the email on
I
that?
didn't get that. Oh.
You received that, didn't you, Lois?
Yes, he's got a lot of problems.
Well, what are the other problems?
Rebar and brush.
Pardon?
They've thrown things in the brush that could have injured employees or severely damaged our equipment too. So he's very cautious about picking up brush and lawns, weeds, and everything now.
Is there any way they can leap through? I know it might demand more work. Leap through the pile that's there to realize that there's nothing there that should not be there.
Well, that's what they're doing. That's how they found it.
That's what they're doing now.
And when they do, I didn't read the email.
Right.
When they do find the issues with the piles, do they leave some type of message with the?
You're going to notify the property owners we're not going to pick it up anymore. If somebody puts stuff in it that will hurt employees or damage our equipment, we will not pick up stuff at that location anymore. We can't take a chance that our people will be injured.
No, I understand that, and I would hope that, you wouldn't do that, and cause injury and damage to the equipment. But I don't think that will be a solution to the problem. I think we need to let the property owners know.
We will. That's what I'm saying. We're going to send letters.
Well, this is one suggestion that he had. Maybe you could send, letters to the residents, letting them know that what's the proper things to be picked up and what have you.
Yeah, let me make a suggestion, even in this case, that we could possibly, and we can do this in-house, make a type of door hanger that you can actually just hang on the doorknob. If there are issues with the whatever's left, the brush pile or grass pile or any other pile, we can make a list and just check off what's done incorrectly and have the homeowner correct that for the next issue. For the next leaving or drop off. Could we do something like that?
We can do anything the board wants us to do. But right now, what they're doing now is notifying them in writing by letter.
Yes.
Versus a door hanger. So that's what we're doing now.
Okay.
But I think Hitchman maybe saying an immediate feedback. If you've got something that's not there,
sure,
you can put it on the hanger, and also you can reinforce that by maybe sending a letter as well. And that way, the two things that you do, one is going to make sure that it gets the receiver.
Yeah, I think that in most cases, it's just done out of just ignorance of not knowing, what you can put out. And I know you've addressed it several times, but you have to understand that, people change, the residents change. We have a high number of, rental dwellings. So all of these all these things change, so.
I think what Dan Hanley was upset about was the limbs that were out there for the brush truck actually had a length of rebar with them.
Right.
And that was not the negligence, that was almost, we think it was intended to damage our equipment, because nobody sticks a piece of rebar with limbs on the road to be collected, and also put concrete into the pieces of block in with the grass too, and that'll ruin our equipment too. So that's why they have to, take up and
Yeah.
But they'll true, they'll pass it by if they find that mix like that.
All right.
Commissioner Hicks? Anything else? Well, I did one thing while we're waiting, Louis, I did have found it here. The test well 2, are we progressing on that test well 2 now out there?
I'm sorry, what was
Test
that?
well, site 2,
Yes.
we're progressing with that now? That's right.
Yes, the survey should be done next week, and then we have to delineate the boundaries so we don't have encroachments. And I've already notified the adjacent neighbors, the owners, and Casey, I'll finish the Platinum Corner Market. And then I talked to AC Shoulders today about field meeting to locate the borehole where we're going to do it. Then we'll start it.
Okay, very
We already
good.
have our proposal in hand on that.
So now at least we're moving ahead and trying to explore these wells, so that's good. Mr. Litzenberg?
Bob Witzenberg, 1051 on Lane, Elton. I had an experience with the recycle the other day, Thursday I guess it was. They didn't pick up mine, they picked up the whole neighborhood, and I couldn't understand why. I called the Public Works. Another truck came and picked it up, and he told me there was 2 small sticks on the top of my recyclables. And they would not take my trash because there was 2 small sticks on top of the recyclables. Fact. Took those out, put them aside. Wasn't a regular carrier, it was somebody that they sent up there to do it from the trash company. But anyhow, very nice, but the town Public Works secretary took care of it very quickly. That's just a small thing. Why was the reason for changing the polling place from the fire company down to here?
With all the construction work that's going on up there right now.
Are they doing construction work in the banquet facility?
No, but it's all been resigned, and they got the big problem right now is tearing that other section apart where they're building the new banquet room.
Well,
So,
that's
construction work.
But
is
that's
going on.
part of the banquet room.
Right.
Okay. Are you going to be moving the town vehicles that are out here during election day?
Yes.
They're going to be moved. Okay. On the expenditures, Porter Ford, is that Porter Ford of Newark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, has anybody looked into purchasing anything from Ramsey Ford here in Elton? And why, it seems like people pay taxes in this town, but you try to do business elsewhere. And I'm sure that whatever your part may be for a truck or an automobile, Ramsey Ford out here could probably supply it. They don't own the building, I think George Dosh owns the building, doesn't he, Norman? But they're still paying taxes. In a sense, I mean, I don't understand why that they don't buy from Elton. Ewing Inc., is that Ewing Towing from Newark also?
No, it's Harvey Grace's for porta pots.
Okay,
They were the cheapest vendor.
okay, that's good. But there's no vendors in town to handle that. The roof on the administrative building or the municipal building here for 12,000 something, do you bid that? Or you just have somebody come do it?
Eight quotes. You had quotes, I'm sure.
So you have or you do or you don't?
I didn't handle it. Panhandling ended up.
Who's that?
So you don't know whether you had bids on it or not?
Not bids, quotes. You get
Quotes, okay, quotes. Don't you think that something for $12,000, you should be getting quotes from more than one person or whatever?
Well, I think it was an emergency repair, they were leaking over the
Yeah.
fuse.
Okay, it's emergency repair. All right, there we
We
go.
didn't have a heck of a lot of choice there.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Connor spoke about a house down in the Hollingsworth Manor area that was burned out. I have not seen it. I don't know whether it's actually burned out or what, but is the building inspector aware of that?
You should be.
That's a recent fire?
Huh? That's the fire they had just the other day?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it must have been.
That's the one on Route
The other
12.
fires-
That's the fire they had.
No. She wasn't talking about Hollingsworth Manor. She was talking about the development with the townhouses. I haven't seen anything in the paper about a fire down there recently. I mean, is he aware of this, or are they gonna send them a letter that they're gonna have to repair it or tear it down or something, or what's the status of these other properties that have been questioned here over and over and over again? What's the status on those? Does anybody know?
Which properties are they again?
I think she was referring to that.
Charlie, you know exactly which properties I'm talking
No,
about.
I'm saying the specific properties. I'm not trying to be smart, I'm just asking a question.
All right, down on West High Street, the property that Charlie Sposato's nephew owns, Mark Saunders owns it. The property here on West High Street also that, one of the attorneys in town owns
Riddle?
it, the Fokker boy owns it.
Oh, fuck.
It's boarded up and so forth. The back of it was open for 2 or 3 years after it burned. The one up across from the Presbyterian Church was also owned by an attorney. What is the status on these? You talk about derelict properties and so forth, but it doesn't, it's all, you talk about it, but nothing gets done. And nobody ever questions, and under old business, what's being done about it. Now, I know a person up in the Heights got a letter that the town was gonna come and cut her grass. She's a widow, lives by herself, lived there more than anybody that's been in this town. Got a letter that the town was gonna come and cut her grass and charge her $100. Right in Elkton Heights. The next door neighbor cut the grass for her. I mean, this is the kind of things that just irritates most people. Her grass needed to be cut, no doubt about that, but you can go any number of places and see where grass needs to be cut in this town and it's not being cut. You can look at other areas that you keep talking about, and nothing's being done about it.
And and there was a fixed amount of money in the letter?
Pardon me?
There was a fixed amount of money in the letter?
From what I understand, they were gonna charge her $100 to cut the grass.
You know anything about that, Louis? What's the,
Yeah, they charge a fee for the cut the grass.
Is that a
It's an
set
incentive
fee?
for people to do it, and then 9 times out of 10 they
Well,
cut
they
it.
do it.
yeah, but the fee, what is there a set fee?
It's based on crew and the,
It's based on what?
230 is the minimum.
Yeah.
The minimum
Oh,
2
actually,
hours,
I'm-
$100 an hour, and a $30 administrative fee.
Okay.
So $230
Well,
would be
that
the minimum.
sounded cheap.
That would be the minimum or maximum?
Minimum. yeah.
Minimum. That's all I have.
In regard to that, could Public Works send each of us exactly what the fee they charge, that in writing? I'd like to see that as well.
Yeah,
That's,
they're getting
that's,
a letter in advance, and one letter for
Oh,
the
yeah.
season, that we just don't
They
cut the
did
grass
that way
and
back
send
when
the bill.
Commissioner Hicks was there.
Yeah,
They
that
said-
goes,
is that right?
that's
Oh,
my
Well, things were doing a lot better
It
when
might be.
Mr. Hicks was there than what's being done
The
now.
same thing, they sent letters out.
Definitely, a much better job being done.
it's the same thing.
It's a definite set fee.
It's $100 an hour, with a minimum of 2 hours being charged, plus a $30 administrative fee. So the minimum charge is $230. If it takes longer than 2 hours, it would be more than that.
So you're saying basically that whoever's grass is being cut at 11%, possibly the minimum amount is going to be $100.
No, it's $230.
230.
Yeah, it's two.
$230. Because
$230.
minimum charge of $100 per hour, but with a
Yeah.
minimum of 2 hours being charged,
Yeah, they have to charge a minimum.
plus a $30 administrative fee.
Yeah, the whole crew goes out. And whether
The
it's.
purpose isn't for us
It's
to be in the
not to be
grass cutting
competitively
business, our
priced.
purpose is to get people to cut their grass.
I understand that, but that needs to be altered some kind of way. I understand the business
We're
for
gonna make it
town.
too cheap, 'cause then
My
we'll let
opinion,
it-
that's
That's the purpose, yeah.
that's tough. And the reason why I say that, and not piggyback on what he was saying, here's an instance where you're gonna charge this lady X amount of dollars, and then there might be a lawn or something that's either neglected or forsaken, and a lot of doesn't go out at all. Just an opinion. If you're gonna rob people,
We're saying if you do it for one, you should do it for all.
We send out a lot of them.
Right, right.
The way it should do.
Yeah, we send out a lot of them.
That's high.
Mr. Nicholson?
James Nicholson, 113 North Street, Elton, Maryland. I just want to make a suggestion that periodically the Public Works runs through the parking lot behind North Street, behind Howard Hotel, because it's been 2 months now and the cement bumpers have been in the middle of the parking lot. And I see the Public Works trucks go through it and no one can just look at it. And they're out into the parking lot of the town. And I think maybe periodically you should check and have them straighten them out. I don't know who's running over them, but they just keep hitting them, and now they're inside the parking lot. As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't look good. I'd like to see them periodically check it. Thank you.
Make
I
sure.
think you called me up, it's been done. Huh?
Well, I got tired of
It would have
calling
been
you.
done tomorrow if you
Every
called me
time I
up.
called you, you get upset with me.
I don't get upset.
I just think it's something a nice, big gesture that you like to say, oh, I can put them back.
Yeah, when I'm at the
I
bank.
could do it
check.
myself if you want me to, but you won't let me.
See that, you move it across the area.
Well, I hire someone.
Call me before you do that.
Everybody wants to take a picture.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else, I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a second? Do I have a second? All those in favor? Or adjourn?